Welcome to another wood-burning cook stove tutoring, you might say, or getting you acquainted with the stoves. This stove here is a Kalamazoo Puritan model, made I believe in 1934-35. It's just about as good a shape as any one that I've ever seen. And here's Maryland, right there. And I'm going to do a little bit of demo on this thing of how it goes together, what to look for when you buy a stove, because you can really get took really bad. We bought a stove, a beautiful Kalamazoo Puritan model. It was cream and turquoise with the warming ovens on top and everything. I paid $4,500 for it. But when we got it, it wasn't all there. It had been converted to a gas log for many years. And the gas log, of course the stove was not burned or anything with the wood, because wood gets very hot, but they'd used it in a second-story apartment, I believe in Massachusetts. Now this stove has just got a warming shelf on it. Many of them, some of them don't have anything, they're just flat top like that. And anyway, this one here had been burned on top. For some reason, I don't know how that happens. That's the only flaw in this beautiful stove. There's your intake. Most of the time, by the way, when you're burning, you just barely open that intake up just a little bit. You don't open it up all the way. If you open that up and then close the flue off, now, when you put one of these things together, we just put the stove in here today, and it's hooked up to the ceiling like this. We're put metal behind it. And it's got a damper in here. That is where you want to put your damper, somewhere there, your external damper. That'll save on your firewood, and it'll make your stove a lot hotter. Now, the Puritan model, many of the other lower models of the Kalamazoo stoves, only the President has an adjustable flue in the stove. Now, I have remodeled. I started with a Montgomery Ward stove, which I don't have here. I can't show that one to you. But I just modified this stove today. Now, if you look on top of this stove, you can see the polish marks where this stove was polished from the factory when it was built. This is, in this model of stove, excuse my shaky camera here, this is heavy sheet metal. This is a piece of very heavy cast iron. This is your shakers down here. I see a lot of you people using these stoves without any firebox liner at all. That is an actually no-no. You do that, you're going to destroy your stove. Some people have put fire blocks in here, and this is your shaker. That shakes your ashes down into the bottom. Many of these stoves don't have a lot of the parts. Now, if you look back there, you will see two holes. They're plugged up with an asbestos cement type material. And that's where water pipes would come in and go out. Down here is a real Kalamazoo water heater. It's burned out, but that came out of a Kalamazoo President. The pipes would go in and out of that, and that's how they would have hot water heater. Those were your first hot water heaters. That's a coal chute there, and we'll show you how it goes together in a little while. But when you're looking at a stove, look at the oven. I saw a man that had a beautiful Kalamazoo President, but the stove, the oven was cracked. And I saw that he repaired it with steel. You can't repair cast iron with steel. What you do is you take what parts you've got. Like if you want this one, you get one that is in good shape, you send it back to Tomahawk Foundry in Wisconsin, and they will make one for you. If you can get a firebox liner, if you buy a stove with a good firebox liner in it, take this firebox liner out, send it to Tomahawk Factory, and have them make you some. Because if you use the stove a lot, you're going to burn the firebox liner up. If you don't have a firebox liner, you're going to burn the stove up. And I see people starting fires from here. You don't start a fire in a wood stove from the front of the stove. because it's got a firebox liner in it. Now down here in this stove, you can see, I think, that everything on this is still shiny. The oven inside, this is not a cast iron oven, but the bottom is cast iron, part of the top is cast iron, part of the back is cast iron. And anyway, it's got shelves that go in here. That is the clean out for the stove right there. There's where you use your clean out tool to scrape it out, and you take it out right down here. All of this is apart now for you to see. The Kalamazoo Puritan model does not have doors over here. This one had a water heater over here that fits down in there. Then you got the top that goes on that. There are the covers that go on that. Here is my modification. If you look at this here, you'll see that that closes. You pull it all the way up, closes. It makes the fire go all the way around here, down underneath the side of the oven, and then out the bottom of the oven. The oven is completely surrounded with fire. This side, over, down, under, and out the back. But now, if you want a little hotter fire, if you're just going to cook something on top of the stove, you can take that, and that opens it wide up. But the fire goes right out there and right up the flue. But now if you want more heat in here, the President model now, it has a double flue adjustment. These don't. But now I have drilled a hole in the end in the side of that flue lever, and now it will close halfway, just like in the President model. Now, look, when you buy a stove, look how good a shape it's in. This stove, for its age, is unbelievable. You still see the polish marks on top of the stove. This is where the coal chute is here. That'll have a liner in that also. I see people using these stoves that don't need the liners in them at all. That they don't know what they're doing, because their stove will not last at all. Period. And you've got the ashtray there. There's the coal chute liner. Over here are all of the plate caps or burners, and you have to have these firebox liners or your stove will not last. As simply as that. Your oven won't burn evenly, and your stove, it'll just burn the oven up. It'll burn the stove completely up. According to what kind of fire or firewood you use, or coal or charcoal or whatever you want to put in the stove, it depends on the heat of the stove. Now I'm going to put this camera over here, and I'm going to let you watch me put this stove together. Now, when you buy a stove, look for the back of the stove. Look, make sure it's good. Make sure it has a firebox liner in it. If it doesn't have a cast iron firebox liner, chances are you can't use the stove, unless you're going to burn it up. I bought one for $4,500. It had no liner in it. It had a gas log, which would have been all right, I guess. And it came in and out there. The gas log came in those holes, and on the back of the stove, there they are. They just had a metal flue coming out of the stove, not cast iron like that. I had to buy this stove. I took the flue off of it. I had another one made. I had all of the firebox liner. I had every one of them sent back to the factory, to the foundry there, the Tomahawk foundry, and I had all this stuff made. The doors were not on it. The door here and the door there was not on it. They probably lit it from here with the gas log in it. And you can see here, this stove, it is such good condition. It's shiny still. Most of these are just solid rust. This stove was taken very good care of, and I was lucky to get it. Like, the only thing I said was wrong was that warming shelf up there, and I probably will try to find some warming ovens to put on this thing maybe one of these days, not even if they don't match. But they're very nice. Warming ovens are very nice. I don't know how much wind you're getting here. This is our brand new what we call our summer kitchen outside. If you can see this in here. Our guest room is here, and we got to put metal, and this is the metal we're going to put on that wall over there, and then we'll put the barbecue pit over beside it, and then a picnic table and stuff in here. So we come out the creek. Chattavich Creek is right there in our yard, coming down there, and this is, of course, the mess we have out here from all of the working that we have done. And of course, it's winter time here. It's cool right now, and the wind is blowing probably 20 miles an hour outside. But our screened-in porch we can set out here in the summertime because we're right on the creek. There are bugs, and so we can set out here, turn our lights on, and sit around here, barbecue, or just sit around and talk about the Bible or whatever. Anyway, so this is kind of a DTW update also. But I wanted you to see these stoves. Be careful when you buy a wood stove, unless you're just going to use it for a garden piece, yard art, or something setting in the house. If you're going to use one of these things, you need to have the basic things in the stove. Every piece of these stoves, cast iron does not expand and retract very much. All of these stoves have cast iron parts in them. So it's hard to get that today. I mean, nearly impossible. If you can find a stove that has the parts on it, you may have to buy 3 stoves to build one real good stove. But once you build one, take good care of it, because it won't be with you very long unless you take care of it correctly. I'm going to try to put this, so I'm going to wiggle it around here a little bit. I've got to try to put this on the stand. Please excuse all of this. Find where the hole is there. We'll screw it onto the camera stand. And hopefully get it aimed in the right direction. Haven't done it yet. Thank you for being patient with me. Now let's see what we've got here. See if we've got the picture of the stove. Okay, that's the stove. All right, there we go. Hopefully you can see me put this thing together. Get my filthy gloves on, because a lot of this has soot on it. Now, first of all, there's a cold chute. That's back in the stove inside and the oven. I had to buy this stove to buy one of these. That is the support stand that goes in here. Like that. The other stove did not have it, even though it's a very beautiful stove, just pristine looking stove. It did not have the support, which you need. If you don't have, when the cast iron gets hot, it will snag and your stove will be sway back. We'll have to use that when we put the other part back together. There's the ashtray. Get over here, how much of me you're seeing. Now I have the original, let's move this around here a little bit more like that. I have the original door for this. This stove was made in 1934, I thought it was. But I had the original bottom door. The other stove didn't have the bottom door at all. Tom Schrader built this one for me out of metal, and it fits very well. There it is. And this here is the one that goes, I see people opening these and starting the fire through here. You don't do that. First of all, you're supposed to have a firebox liner in there. If you don't have the firebox liner in there, your stove's going to burn up. It's going to just all this will chip off and etc. Well, let's try to start putting this thing back together now. Here is the cold chute. Sometimes this doesn't go together very easily either. Have to wrestle with it a little bit. Easy at all. Okay. This is when you order these and get these parts back from the small factory or whatever foundry that you have to do this, sometimes you have to grind on them to get them together. This is very important here. This is the firebox liner. It's very important. If you don't have this, you're going to burn your stove up. Simple as that. Get this in here in unison. Down inside of here, I showed you a while ago, there is a little a piece of sheet metal that goes down in here. It latches there on that side, and it causes the ashes to fall into the ash drawer. And some of these stoves, that is rotted out, and so you won't have them, but you can make them if you are patient enough. This is not easy, I can assure you. Get these parts back in here. You have a front and a back liner also, these stoves. You don't think you're ever going to get them back together again once you get them apart. This is the front liner. Now you can see, if you got the firebox liner, the front firebox liner, you're not going to start a fire from here. And if you don't have it in there, you're going to have problems. It'll burn the face of your stove up. Now here we have the plates that go on this side. Here. And they'll tell you what parts they are and everything else. In the foundry where they built these stoves, and you can go online and look up Kalamazoo factory, stove factory, and you can watch them building these stoves in the 1930s. it takes a lot of work and patience to get one of these back together sometimes. Now here, this goes in here like this. There's the front of the stove. Here's the clean out. It goes down here like that. I hope you can see that. Here's your coal chute cover. All this all fits together. Here's your griddle. I see people putting the griddle over here. Griddle doesn't go there. Your griddle goes over here. Now this here goes over here. I see people putting them in different places. They will fit there, see, but they're not in the right place. I'll show you this over here. This one goes over here. This one goes over here. You load the stove from here, not there. You load the stove from the top of the stove, not from the other. And now you got your burners. Burners are plate taps, and they go on top of here. Now I didn't bring a lifter with me to show you how they lift off and everything, but that's the way the stove goes together. Now I didn't bolt everything in place inside of the oven, but you get the idea of that. The stoves, this goes together like this. And that's your water heater cover. Some of these have just solid cast iron covers here, which I have on one stove, the present model. Some of them have cast iron lids, which this one actually came with cast iron lids. That's down in California because I brought it up here because the lid was really good. This stove is in such a good shape. Now, you will bolt, after you do this, put this up just a little bit here. Might be able to see me a little better. You bolt the top of that up here. There's bolts here and here. And then you got bolts in the back on the edge of it where you bolt them back together. I have taken and used more modern stainless steel bolts instead of the old regular steel bolts because they get rusty. And the stainless steel comes on or off when you want to clean the stove, take it apart. I use a sander. Let me show you this also. This is an orbital sander. I take this every now and then and I will that'll clean the rust off the top of the stove. I use olive oil. to wipe off the top of the stove, and when it gets hot, it'll turn like a gun barrel blue. Keep your stove oiled on top. They used to use stove polish and everything else, but I just clean the stove and I make sure that it is, now this is one plate cap, didn't come on this one. They have all different kind of plate caps. Some of them have holes in it. You put the one with holes over here, you can, when you get a fire going, you can put a coffee pot or something that fits right down in that hole. They used to make skillets that fit right down in here as plate caps, and they would get, the fire would be directly on the bottom of the skillet, so it would be hot for frying chicken or whatever. As you're using your oven, you will watch the temperature on your oven. Your oven heat inside the oven is a little bit hotter because this is on the outside of the oven, and there's a shield between that and the thermometer. So your real oven temperature is probably going to be a little bit warmer. If this was 250 out here, it might be 350 inside the oven. Now, if you want to raise the heat of your stove, once you get a lot of coals going in there and you've got coals in that fire, you can put this down and it'll make your wood last much longer, and the top of the stove will get hot. You'll see your oven coming up. Like I said, now the oven bypass is right there. This stove did not come out with a two-stage damper, built-in damper, but I put one in here. I get it where it's about halfway open, and I use that, and it'll, if you don't want to bake anything, it'll make the stove hotter, especially if you got an external damper on it. And of course, remember, this stove does have a warming shelf here and everything else. It's nice to put things on it when you're cooking and everything, and it'll keep things warm up there to some extent. The warming ovens are much better. I have warming ovens on 3 of my stoves. Of the 4, well actually four stoves, because I have a Montgomery Ward that has a warming oven on it also. And maybe I'll do a video of that one of these days. It's in really good shape, except the sheet metal on it is shot. It needs to be completely redone. I hope you've enjoyed this video, and I hope it's helped you. Be careful when you buy a wood stove. You can buy one pretty cheap, but some of it is as yard art or furniture, because you can't use it. We paid $4,500 for a beautiful stove that was not all there. They had taken it apart over the years through the parts. It didn't have the cabinet here at all down below. It didn't have the one up here above. They just had a gas log in it. Many of them were converted to gas logs, either propane or natural gas logs. And back in the old days, people would have a wood stove in the house, and they didn't have meters on the gas. Either it was on or off. And since they didn't have a gas stove in the house or a gas heater, they didn't get a gas bill. But they were actually using the gas in one of these wood-burning cook stoves. God bless you. I hope that you learned something from this. We'll do more videos off and on. I want to do a video also of a stove with a fire in it, which I actually have in the other part of the house. I might just take this camera in there as I go now and try to show you how to put a piece of wood in the fire. Anyway, load the wood here, not there. You can't load wood there if you have the firebox liner. If you don't have the firebox liner, it'll burn the front of your stove up. It'll take a little while, but it'll be all cracked and crinkly and everything. But anyway, make sure that you got a firebox liner. If you don't have a firebox liner, find somebody that has one for your model of stove. The Kalamazoos are very prevalent. If you can find somebody with a firebox liner for them, if you can beg them and insure it, promise them whatever you're going to need to do, and send that back to the Tomahawk Foundry, and have them make copies of those things. They have to make a mold and it's all cast iron, and they do a good job. I even had lifter handles. I had them done because I had original Kalamazoo lifter handles. Now I'm going to go and take you in the house here, hopefully, if this works out. And we're going to go through the shop. Everything is a total mess because we're building. Everything's a mess. let's walk through the house here. I have 3 wood stoves hooked up here in my house here in Nevada. We're going through the house now. Here is the library and radio room. This is where I teach and do my recording. Right here. There's the chart I stand in front of, and the video recorder and everything there. Going through the house here. There's Marilyn in the kitchen. Say hi, Marilyn, again. Say hi again.
Hi again.
All right, here we go through the house. Now we're going to go out into the front room. And by the way, you can look up there and see the White Mountains. Very beautiful White Mountains full of snow. This is our front yard. Here's the deck on the front of the house. There in the trees, we've got about 30 fruit trees and all of the poplar trees surrounding for windbreaks. This is a Kalamazoo president. And this Kalamazoo president here, I'm going to try to show you how to hopefully this is recording. This is the top of the stove. It is hot. The oven's setting at about 350 degrees or so. This is a lifter. Now this is the thing that, right here, this is how you clean the ashes out of the bottom of the stove that I showed you where you did that with the other stove. This is a regular ash cleaner. And then I have other tools here also. This is a homemade poker that I have here that I made out of a piece of rebar. Anyway, you take that off like that. There's the warming oven. The warming oven is sitting in there right now at 155 degrees in the oven. Here are some of the tools you can put on top of the stove. If you got a pot that you don't want real hot, you put that there. Put the pot on top of it. There's another one. If you're going to cook beans or something for a long time or stew, you put it on there like that, and it keeps the pot up off the stove. Over here is a solid top. This is a solid cast iron. It doesn't open and close. It's just cast iron on the top. There again, you don't see the fire because I have a firebox liner in this thing. Here's the storage area over on this side. There's the oven. I have a thermometer in the oven, and I have a thing out down below. Now, I'm going to take this off. Make sure when you're putting wood in here, make sure that you have the external flue open, and the internal flue can be on as far as that goes, but I'm going to put a piece of wood in there, just one piece of wood. So you can see what I'm doing here. This stove is quite unique. The President and the Liberty model have a feature that is very unique. Here we have a long piece of wood, and you can either put wood in here in the coal chute, either that, or turn that back and put it in there, but it's kind of small, or you can open this up and throw a piece of wood in there like that, which is nice. You can throw your longer wood in there. Now, I've got enough wood there to last for a few more hours, And I always keep a teapot on the thing. Some people have cast iron teapots, and some of them fit down in there, and they'll get pretty hot. This one here will really whistle all the time. I hope that you've enjoyed this video. I hope it's helped you in deciding about wood burning cook stoves, and thank you. God bless you.